age-friendly planning, and technical and administrative updates. The public is invited to provide input on matters relating to the proposed ROPA. John Ye, Principal Planner, Integrated Planning Division, and Ola Dubush, Director, Chronic Disease and Injury Prevention, will provide introductory remarks and a brief presentation. Following this presentation, there will be an opportunity for persons and/or the public or public bodies to make oral submissions on the matter or ask questions of staff. Staff will also accept any written submissions you may wish to submit. The purpose of this meeting is to hear public comments for future consideration at a future meeting of Regional Council. There will be no debate or discussion on the ROPA or the public comments presented today at this meeting. Councillors will be able to discuss the amendment as well as any comments or concerns raised by the public here today when staff report back to a future meeting of Regional Council. Today is a public meeting to which Council has been invited. This is the public's opportunity to be heard. I now call on the Regional Clerk to advise of requirements and the method by which notice of the meeting was given and confirm the dates that the notices were given.
I would like to remind everyone, if a person or public body does not make an oral submission at this public meeting or make written submission to the Region of Peel before this proposed official plan amendment is adopted, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision to the Council of the Region of Peel, to the Council of the Region of Peel to the Ontario Municipal Board. Further, if a person or public body does not make oral submission at a public meeting or make written submission to the Region of Peel before the proposed official plan amendment is adopted, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the Board, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Notice of the public meeting was given in accordance with Section 17, subsections 15 and 17 of the Planning Act as amended, Ontario Regulation 543/06, and the Region of Peel Policy G00-16, by publication in the following news media having general circulation in the Region of Peel: Brampton Guardian, September 8, 2016. Mississauga News, September 8, 2016. Caledon Enterprise, September 8, 2016. Caledon Citizen, September 8, 2016. In addition, the notice of public meeting was posted on the Region's website as of September 9, 2016, and the draft official plan amendment was available to the public online as of July 4, 2016. Any person who would like further notice of the future passage of this proposed official plan amendment should give their full name, address, postal code, and telephone number in writing at the clerk's reception counter prior to leaving today. There is a sign-in sheet located at the clerk's reception counter for anyone who wishes to make comments. There is a separate sheet for anyone who wishes to be notified of Council's decision on this application and amendment. If you are speaking on behalf of a special interest group, please identify the group prior to speaking.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to emphasize that the proposal before the public is in draft form and relates to the Region of Peel Official Plan Amendment 27, Health and the Built Environment, Age-Friendly Planning, and Technical and Administrative Updates. I now call on John Ye, Principal Planner, Integrated Planning Division, and Ola Dubush, Director, Chronic Disease and Injury Prevention, to explain the proposed official plan amendment. If you'd please come forward. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of Regional Council, members of the public. My name is John Ye, and to my right is Ola Dubush. Thank you for this opportunity to present Regional Official Plan Amendment number 27. This presentation will walk you through proposed policies on age-friendly planning, health and the built environment, and technical and administrative updates. We'll also provide some further information on timing and next steps. So this presentation was developed for the benefit of the public and for the public to learn more about the amendment itself. So through the course of the presentation, I'll provide an update on regional planning and the regional planning context that we have here today. We'll also go through the official plan review itself, namely Peel 2041, and provide an overview of the proposed policies in ROPA 27. I'll also go through the timing and next steps as well. So provincial legislation requires the Region of Peel to have an official plan in place to use the planning policies to guide growth and development in Peel and infrastructure decision-making to shape our communities while protecting the environment and managing regional resources. Local municipal official plans must conform with the regional OP. The regional official plan provides guidance and support to help realize local planning objectives while reflecting provincial policy and regional interests. The regional official plan exists within the regulatory context of a number of provincial policies and plans. Mainly, this is the Provincial Policy Statement, the Planning Act, the Greenbelt Plan, the Growth Plan, the Oak Ridges Marine Plan, and the Niagara Escarpment Plan. As you may know, many of these provincial documents are currently under review. However, there are a number of plans and policies, such as the Provincial Policy Statement, that are in place since 2014, and Amendment 2 to the Growth Plan forecast since 2013. The first official plan was approved in 1996, and since then there have been a number of reviews of the official plan to reflect changing planning circumstances to conform with provincial plans and policies and to advance regional planning matters. Through Council's approval, Peel has brought in official plan amendments such as ROPA 15, as some of you may recall, the Northwest Brampton Boundary Urban Expansion, official plan amendment number 11, Human Services, and most recently, official plan amendment number 24 to conform with the growth plan. That including intensification and density targets in the official plan. So now we're in the midst of the current official plan review, which started in 2013. And this guides growth to the year 2041. This official plan review is known as Peel 2041, which addresses Amendment 2 to the growth plan, and also the Provincial Policy Statement from 2014, and also the Clean Water Act from 2006. There could be additional inputs to the official plan review as the coordinated plans review winds down, and we are expecting in 2017 updates to other provincial plans such as the Growth Plan, Oak Ridges Marine Plan, Niagara Escarpment Plan. For Peel 2041, a public meeting and open houses were held back in 2013 to kick off this official plan review. So we're now at the point of receiving comments on draft ROPA 27, which is the first of several amendments being introduced. Open houses were held on September 19th, 21st, and 2016, and 26 in the local municipalities. We should also see several other official plan amendments in 2017 and 2018 to support the review. So Regional Official Plan Amendment number 27 encompasses age-friendly planning and health in the built environment. There are a number of other focus areas in this official plan review, which I'll just go through quickly. So they are agriculture, climate change, greenland systems planning, water resources, mineral aggregates, housing, growth management, and transportation. The first amendment in Peel 2041 is ROPA 27, which is here before you today. We're expecting a final council report in January 2017 and then provincial approval in the third quarter of 2017. We're going to take back all the feedback, all the comments received on the draft ROPA and formulate that into a final report. And we also have upcoming the environment-themed ROPA. However, this work, the timing may change due to the coordinated plans review. The scope of this ROPA may be expanded to accommodate the Oak Ridges Marine Plan, the Greenbelt Plan, and the Niagara Escarpment Plan. And we also have the Growth Management ROPA, which is part of an overall larger growth management strategy here at the region, which includes looking at the DC bylaw update, the ROPA itself on the Amendment 2 forecasts, and the financial strategy, all in one encompassing strategy. And this work is expected to start in 2017 with a draft ROPA, and we're aiming for council adoption in late 2017 and then provincial approval in 2018. These are the last three ROPAs of the official plan review: housing, transportation, and mineral aggregates. And again, this work will unfold into 2018. Overall, Peel 2041 aligns well with the strategic plan, outcomes, and the TOCPs. In the immediate term, the two focus areas of age-friendly planning and health in the built environment align well with the four-year term of council priority on promoting healthy and age-friendly built environments. Over the longer term, 20 years, it'll support things like healthy living, mobility, and walkability. Moving on to age-friendly planning focus area. So we all know that Canada in general and other parts of the world, and mainly Ontario and specifically here in Peel, that the population is aging as a result of the baby boom generation post-World War II. Within Peel itself, we are expecting Peel's population over the age of 65 to grow from about 136,000 people in 2011 to 415,000 in 2041. That works out to about 1 in 10 people in 2011 that are over the age of 65, and then about 1 in 5 over the age of 65 by 2041. So this has implications for the workforce. So some forecasting work that has been done. If you see here, in 2041, we expect about, for every 3 working age person, there's going to be 1 person over the age of 65. So that has numerous implications for things like healthcare, social assistance and employment and so forth. So this focus area supports the previous term of council priority on the Aging Population Steering Committee. The staff is currently operationalizing the work. The age-friendly planning focus area also supports that work from a built form and land use planning perspective. So in order to determine what draft policies to include in the official plan, there was a jurisdictional scan undertaken. A discussion paper was prepared. Over 16 jurisdictions were reviewed, and they include Hamilton, Atlanta, and New York City. Here are the draft policies on age-friendly planning. We want to encourage things like development of municipal policies supporting seniors to age within their communities, whether it's retrofitting existing homes so that they can stay within their home, or whether it's in the community with nearby long-term care facilities, with having access to amenities close by, services, and so forth, and parks. With regards to universal accessibility design, there are existing policies in the official plan for regional facilities. However, we want to extend this to the built environment, and that may include things like signage and improving signage and appropriate walkways. You'll hear later in the presentation about the Healthy Development Framework from OLA. There's certainly connections between age-friendly planning and planning for healthy communities, and we wanted to see that connection within the age-friendly planning work. And we also finally have a policy related to assessing the built environment in areas where there's a preponderance of seniors. We want to see how the services relate to where people live and the state of the built environment, whether people can access resources, community centers, parks, all within close proximity to one another. And the aim of this is to work with other regional departments to implement changes, whether it's through the capital planning process, and also working closely with the area municipalities because they're the implementers most of the land use planning policies within the region. And we also want to work with the development industry on this as well. So what do we want to accomplish with age-friendly planning? So we want seniors to be able to age within their community. We want safe, barrier, inclusive environment. We also want to create healthy, walkable communities. So people of all ages have access to amenities and green spaces and services within their communities. So given the responsibility of mainly land use planning lies with the local municipalities, we're going to be working closely with the local municipalities and collaborating with the development industry to try to implement this work over the next little while. So I'll now turn it over to Ola to speak about the Healthy Communities policies.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Mr. Chair, members of council, good morning. So linkage between health and built environment is strong and clear. Our dependence and the way that we built our communities, which contributed to the sprawl of our communities, made us dependent on cars to get on with our everyday daily activities. And what that resulted in? It resulted in decreased active transportation, meaning decreased walking, decreased cycling, as well as decreased transit use. And in turn, what we are seeing is that we have increases in the rates of diabetes, heart disease, other chronic conditions, healthcare utilization, traffic congestion, air pollution, and loss of productivity and jobs. The cost of this issue is significant, both for our system, for our health care, as well as for individuals and ourselves. Increased public use and even modest improvements in the rates of active transportation, such as walking and cycling, we could see tremendous results. These modest increases would result in preventing each year hundreds of premature deaths and over 1,000 of cases of diabetes, as you can see on the slide. Regional Council has seen this vision and has recognized the problem in the past. And your direction and vision, which was established through ROPA 24 and 25, envisioned building healthy, active, complete communities in Peel to meet people's needs for daily living. These goals are reinforced through the new strategic plan and term of council priorities. Implementation of this vision, however, requires a paradigm shift. Where we started with creating the evidence, creating tools, building awareness, and raising awareness about this linkage between health and built environment. And where we find ourselves right now is that we need to continue those efforts and focus now on shifting practices of the planning community through refining planning policies, processes, and tools, and capacity building across the sector to build these complete communities. And you may ask, what is complete community? Complete community provides residents with opportunities to interact, learn, work, play, and live throughout a lifetime. Options for housing, employment, healthy food, services, and recreation. Convenient access to public transportations and options for safe, non-motorized travel. This is what complete healthy community we are striving for is. And the way that we are approaching this will be done with an aim of ensuring that the design of these communities is healthy and complete through consistent and explicit consideration of health impacts. Incorporation of health design elements in the design and development plans, as well as prioritizing health impacts in decision-making processes. And you may ask, how are you going to support this consistency, and how would we know whether the particular plan or development has health-promoting potential? And we have tools for that. As John has previously mentioned, we have developed the Healthy Development Framework. And what this is a set of tools, a collection of local, context-specific tools that are all based on evidence demonstrating the key built environment features that influence human activity and facilitate health. These tools have been informed by evidence. They are easy to use. They are meaningful, focus on key components of the built environment that influence active travel, are not onerous to complete, and have been integrated and aligned into other tools and existing processes to ensure minimal impact to proponents. And for example, on the slide, you will see that the Healthy Development Assessment tool is being used by the region of Peel and town of Caledon. In City of Brampton, we have the Sustainable Community Development Guidelines, which focus on the same set of elements. And Healthy by Design checklist is being used in City of Mississauga. So this collection of tools just to give you a sample of what are the criteria that are being examined and all the applications are scored against, include density, service proximity, land use mix, street connectivity, streetscape characteristics, and efficient parking. So while the tools is there, what we are looking for right now is enhancing our policies to ensure the consistent application, consistent, focused, and deliberate application of these tools. And with that in mind, the proposed ROPA 27 health and built environment policies include the following: integrating elements of the framework, healthy development framework, in local municipal policies, plans, and standards. Require health assessments of all applicable planning applications. Require health assessments of all regionally and municipally owned and operated public buildings and open spaces, project applications. And ensure results of health assessments are reported to local councils. These policies will ensure consistency across proponents and support the monitoring and evaluation of the outcomes attributable to health assessment, as well as measure our progress towards this vision that Council has established of the healthy, complete built environment in our communities. And you will ask what we are trying to achieve and what we are working towards. So just to summarize, we would like to accomplish implementing the healthy development framework to achieve healthier communities, to increase physical activity through walking and cycling, improve health outcomes and social connectivity for our residents, and in turn reduce the risk of diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ola. The final part of ROPA 27 is related to technical administrative update policies. So one of the policies we wanted to introduce is related to making corrections to the official plan that are of minor technical nature. So things like spelling, grammar. We'd like to make changes to the official plan without needing an official plan amendment, without having to go through the Planning Act public consultation process, given the minor nature of these changes. So this is actually common practice among other municipalities in Ontario, and this would just be a simple update to the official plan. Related to terms and terms within the official plan, over the years, different programs and services change names and terms, and we're going to be reflecting that in the official plan for things like waste management, emergency management, and regional services. Finally, we also have some policies to update the planning process related to development process, development proposals, and air municipal official plans that conform to the regional official plan. So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we are expecting to bring forth another council report to gather all the feedback and comments on the proposed ROPA for early 2017. And we'll be addressing all the comments, and including a recommended amendment for council to adopt. And finally, provincial approval of the policies in the latter half of 2017. To date, we've received several comments on the proposed ROPA. There is general support for the policies. Comments include support for active lifestyles, outdoor spaces, encouraging aging within the community. There are also comments around housing and support for seniors housing. We'll be addressing this through this ROPA and also through the housing focus area in 2017. The region is also looking into these housing issues through its housing and homelessness plan, and the action and the implementation plan is underway. For additional information on the official plan review, you can contact myself. Comments can also be provided to me and also to the email at planpeel@peelregion.ca. For specific information on age-friendly planning, you're welcome to contact Nahida Jamal within Integrated Planning, and for health in the built environment, Ola in public health. Thank you again for this opportunity to share information with you and the public, and we hope you find this information useful. And again, thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, John and Ola. I have two councillors on the list, Councillor Groves and Councillor Sprovieri. I just want to caution you that if it's for clarification, because the purpose of this meeting is for public participation, it's not for discussion.
Then
So,
take me off. then. I'm
okay, so you're
to come
off. John, what about? Okay, then I'll move to you then, Councillor Sprovieri.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the presentation. John Eloa? Sorry.
Ola.
Ola, sorry, Ola. Just on the one topic, that you mentioned, promoting active and healthy communities, to plan for that for the future. Have you developed an actual strategy on how to achieve that, or are you looking for ideas through this process?
So the strategy exists. I'm just going to go back to the previous slide. So what the strategy involves or envisions is we understand that to get from the community that is built as sprawl, that is very automobile dependent, to the community that is envisioned, that is complete and healthy, it is not going to be done overnight. So while a deliberate and focused approach is required, it is also an evolutionary approach. And we started early in the process, and this approach involves first raising that awareness and building the evidence. We are, I would say, probably somewhere in the middle right now, where we need to, now that awareness is there, linkages are there, we have the evidence, we have the tools, we need to test and operationalize those tools. And we need to make sure that we are deliberate in application, consistent and deliberate in application of the tools, as well as tested in the decision making. The next phase is going to be to actually see the results and monitor the results in changing the design of communities to be healthy and complete. So through the development, consistent and deliberate development and application of the healthy assessment development tools, what we are hoping to see is first that we will know whether the particular plan is and has health promoting characteristics. We'll also have the ability to provide recommendations how to improve it, to have more health promoting characteristics. And then, of course, we are looking for the actual development to, if there is a need, to be augmented to have those health promoting characteristics. And through this evolutionary yet deliberate and focused strategic approach, this is the plan to get to the changed design of our communities to be healthy and complete.
Well, thank you for that. And so I would imagine that this is mostly for the new upcoming development rather than the existing development.
That's correct, through you, Mr. Chair. This is for the new developments and redevelopments. This is not for the existing sites.
So Caledon will be doing all that research and trials, obviously. Yeah.
David, did you wish to make a
Just
comment? Thanks, Councillor.
for the point of clarification, as Ola has said, it's for new development and redevelopment. Mm-hmm. Really, what the OP, the official plan, changes that we're proposing will do is put the policies in the plan that will then support the application of the strategy and ensure that that strategy is applied consistently throughout Peel. So this is not about the strategy, although Ola's explained the strategy. It's about the supporting policies that will be in our official plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Tovey.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and it's great to see you back, by the way. So we're all happy about that. Just a question as far as built form and healthy communities go. I was wondering if you've looked at any research into the different types of built form and what their effect is on mental and physical health. I'll give you a quick example. One of my absolute favorite urban planners is a fellow named Jan Gale, who teaches in Copenhagen. And he did the master plan for Copenhagen 45 years ago. He does a lot of psychological studies. So they did one study that I thought that was really fascinating. They determined that a mother could make eye contact like this with their child.
Councillor Tovey, the purpose is just for clarification, and you're getting more into leading.
Okay, well, I was just wondering, have you done any research on built form and the effects on health? Different
Mr.
types of
Chair,
built form.
yes, and we would be very happy to bring some of that background, additional information when we report back to council. With
Yeah, I'd be interested as to what that was. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation. At this time, it's moves us to public participation. So I request that all persons wishing to address the proposal or ask questions make representations through the chair. And our next speaker is Javita Sundaramurthy, Vice President, Research and Education, Canadian Diabetes Association. Welcome, Javita.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the council, and thank you for giving Canadian Diabetes Association an opportunity to comment on this very important initiative. As many of you know, diabetes is an epidemic in Peel region. This region has one of the highest prevalence of diabetes in Canada. And research has shown that healthy cities lead to better health outcomes and will significantly contribute to the decrease in the prevalence of diabetes. We have research carried out in Canada by Dr. Gillian Booth from St. Michael's Hospital and the Institute for Clinical and Evaluative Sciences, who looked at patterns of obesity, diabetes, and transportation across 9,000 neighborhoods with different levels of walkability over a dozen years and involved 3 million people in 15 municipalities in southern Ontario. The study looked at adults ages 30 to 64, a group that has experienced a rapid increase in obesity-related conditions, including diabetes. Her study showed that obesity rates in southern Ontario cities have remained stable for more than a decade in highly walkable neighborhoods, but continued to rise in less walkable ones. In addition, neighborhoods that were designed to be more walking-friendly also experienced a fall in the rates of new cases of diabetes. This study illustrates the important role that neighborhoods play in keeping people healthy. The best designed communities make it easy for people to walk, which helps protect them against obesity and diabetes. Neighborhoods that force people to drive everywhere are worse off in terms of obesity and diabetes. Overweight and obesity rates in Peel region are highest in the GTA. People in the age range of 40 have a higher incidence of type 2 diabetes in this area. So therefore, given the evidence that is mounting about the relationship between neighborhoods and diabetes, the Canadian Diabetes Association is very supportive of this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Our next delegate is David Lang, Chair of Bike Brampton. Welcome, David. A special welcome to your lovely wife up there, Dale, too.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Members of council, staff, and members of the public, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk on this important topic today. As I've already been introduced, but I'll tell you that I'm a resident of Brampton, have been for almost 39 years. It'll be the end of this month. So I've seen a lot of changes happen within the city and within the region of Peel. I also should point out that my lovely wife Dale and I cycled here this morning, and I say that not to brag, but to just tell you what's possible. That if you know the appropriate routes and if you are careful, that you can in fact get around the city using active transportation. But that said, there are an awful lot of people that are of average fitness like I am, who could potentially take advantage of active transportation, but are intimidated by the built environment. And I would like to say that for the past 60 years, and I haven't been around here for 60 years, but certainly in the 50s, we started to build these communities in the GTHA, and we became very good at providing a certain lifestyle, what I will call the Canadian version of the American dream. And that means relatively affordable housing on open space lots, wide boulevards, connected by a series of roadways, regional roads, regional connector roads, and ultimately into 400 superhighways. We have 1.5 cars in every driveway, and residential cul-de-sacs that are also connected into this road network. The unfortunate thing is, and that provided us a very lovely lifestyle for a good portion of the time that we lived here. But the reality, and I'm sure you're all aware of it, is that we are now choking on our own success. The current urban and suburban model has been a key contributor to out-of-control traffic congestion, reduced air quality, as has been described, environmental degradation, including carbon emissions, which is now becoming a huge issue for us as a society, and unhealthy lifestyle. In addition to that, the cost of the infrastructure maintenance is now becoming a huge burden for municipalities that are already cash-strapped. And we cannot afford to continue with growing in the same style that we have been as we had in the past. And added to that is the projected cost of healthcare and the costs associated with adapting to a rapidly changing climate. So the situation, in a word, is unsustainable. Now, I believe that policy is a powerful tool to enact change, and that's what we need, is a tool to enact change. We've got to start to think about things in a different way. And there are numerous examples. Councillor Tovey mentioned Copenhagen, but there are lots of North American examples as well, where policy changes combined with strong visionary political leadership have dramatically altered the course of urban development in a very positive way, leading to cities that are sustainable, vibrant, and economically robust. So I've taken a look at the proposed policy changes outlined in ROPA 27, and I believe that they are a step in the right direction. And I can say with confidence that they are fully supported by the Bike Brampton membership. In fact, I think that if I could offer a suggestion, they don't go quite far enough in one area, and that is in 7.4.2.5, where the municipalities are still, at this point in the wording, given the opportunity to opt out, not in terms of the health assessment report, but in terms of actually enacting the recommendations associated with that health assessment report. So I would suggest that proposals that are submitted, and once the health assessment report has been done, that there needs to be action taken as a result of that health assessment report. I also would hope that, and I haven't gone through the glossary of terms, but I would hope that where the amendment describes the interconnected elements of the built environment, such as streetscape characteristics and efficient parking, that those elements include such things as on-road bicycle infrastructure. We've got to get to the place where we recognize that bicycles have an equal right to be on the road as other vehicles, and so we need to provide appropriate infrastructure and also convenient place to park it once you get to a destination. So other than that, though, I believe that we have made that this ROPA 27 is a major step in the right direction, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to you this morning about it. Thank you very much.
Well, David, we really appreciate your submission today, and certainly your suggestions will be, they have been duly noted, and they certainly will be reviewed before the final submission, so thank you kindly. Is there any other person present who wishes to make an oral submission? Seeing none then. To date, we have received approximately 6 written submissions for the proposed official plan amendment. Are there any additional written submissions to be presented at this time? Again, seeing none then. Written submissions can be made at any time to the regional clerk up to 4:30 p.m. on November the 7th, 2016. I'd like to thank all the speakers for your interest in presentations during the meeting. The written comments, together with those oral submissions expressed at this meeting, have been noted and will be included in a final report to be considered by Regional Council. Additional comments should be filed with the region by November the 7th, 2016, in order to be included by staff in the final report to Council, which is targeted for January 2017. This brings to a conclusion the public meeting regarding the proposed amendment to the Region Appeal Official Plan. I hereby declare the public meeting officially closed. I'll call to order the special meeting for the Peel Housing Corporation shareholders meeting. Roll call. All councillors are present except Councillor Fonseca due to a personal matter, Mayor Jeffrey due to a personal matter, and Mayor Thompson due to a personal matter. Good morning and welcome to this special meeting of the Peel Housing Corporation shareholder. The purpose of this meeting is to receive an update from the Acting General Manager of Peel Housing Corporation and to ratify and confirm the bylaws and resolutions of the corporation from the June 23rd, 2016 to the present. Before we commence the business on the agenda, I would note that Peel Housing Corporation Bylaw 1-2003 requires that notice of the time and place of each meeting of shareholders be sent not less than 10 days before the meeting. As this requirement was not met, I would ask for a motion to waive the notice, that in accordance with Section 9.04 of Peel Housing Corporation Bylaw 1-2003, notice of special meeting of the shareholder be waived. Okay, moved by Councillor Miles, seconded by Councillor Shaughnessy. All those in favor then? Carried. Thank you. Approval of the agenda then, moved by Councillor Paleshi, seconded by Councillor Downey. All in favor? Carried. There are no delegations, communications. We're down to Peel Housing Corporation shareholder update. For information, if Commissioner Sheehy would like to present.
Yes.
Perfect timing.
Is she making?
I think, isn't she?
She told me that she was going to be speaking.
Could you just give me a moment, please?
Sure. How about those Blue Jays?
Through the chair, I was walking in when you asked the question, so I believe you wanted an update.
Yes,
Is that
please.
correct? So I'm here today to provide you with an update on changes that have recently occurred at the Peel Housing Corporation. As you may be aware, on September the 16th, the 4 standing citizen members of the board tendered their resignations. At that time, they expressed their concerns about what they felt was limited authority under the current governance structure. At that time, a staffing change had also recently been made at the Housing Corporation. At the October 6, 2016 PHC board meeting, the board revised the corporation's bylaws to ensure the ongoing and effective functioning of the board. Quorum was reduced to 5 members. The remaining board members will focus on clarifying their roles and responsibilities and work to resolve governance issues. There will be no interruption in service to our tenants. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Sprovieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that information. I guess the question I have is the concern of the 4 members that resigned. Are they going to be replaced, or what are we going to do without them?
Through the chair, at this time, the board feels that it's best to resolve the issues around governance before we work to replace new board members.
So the main concern, and they were all had the same concern, basically, it was that their authority basically was very limited, and they felt that they should have more authority.
We were working through some issues related to governance, and the timing was unfortunate because we actually did have a governance workshop set up on September 29th to try to address their concerns. So I do believe we were working in the right direction in terms of outlining and clarifying what their roles and responsibilities were. But from their perspective, perhaps the pace of change was not as fast as they would have liked.
So through the chair, these changes that they were looking for, are they possible, or or is the authority is mandated by the provincial municipal act or whatever, whoever makes that decision, or council, or this council?
So definitely that we have the latitude and the ability to make changes in the way in which the governance structure functions at the Housing Corporation. Those types of recommendations would come back to Regional Council for their approval, but they are definitely, it definitely is something that we're able to do.
And does staff feel that these 4 members had legitimate concerns, and do you staff feel that there is a need to make changes?
I believe it's a good time to pause, take a look at the current governance structure, and determine how the board wants to move forward.
Councillor Sprovieri, I'm going to ask David to comment on that as well. Please.
Sure.
The relationship, thank you, Mr. Chairman, the relationship between the Peel Living Board as a wholly owned subsidiary of the region, and the region being the shareholder, that relationship is defined in something called a shareholder direction. And that really defines the extent of authority that the shareholder gives to the board. We were in the process of, we presented to the board a draft shareholder direction, and we were in the process of working with the board to finalize that shareholder direction with the amount of authority that they felt they should have. And then we will bring that back to the council as the shareholder for ratification. So it's really a bit of a negotiation between the board and the shareholder as to how much authority the board would have on items such as disposal of assets, purchasing limits, and so on. So that was, as Janice has mentioned, there were meetings set up with the board to work through those issues so that we could have a shareholder direction that we could bring back. So we were optimistic that those issues would be resolved and brought forward to council, but as I think Janice said quite aptly, I don't believe that the citizen members were pleased with the pace with which that work was proceeding.
I see. And the rest of the board were okay with the pace? And were they also looking for changes?
Mr. Chairman, if I may through you, I wonder if I should ask Councillor Miles as the president or acting president of the board to speak on behalf of the board rather than me as staff.
And she's actually next on the list,
Great.
so
Thank you.
want to step down. Councillor Miles.
Yeah, thank you very much. I believe that all members of the Peel Living Board, both the sitting members of council that were on the board, plus the citizen representatives recognized that Peel Living was really going through its first year where we were transitioning from a board that was run solely by the Region of Peel members of council to a board that had some citizen members. So there was a learning curve, and through the first year, some of the issues around governance and authority and roles and responsibilities came up and were discussed at the board. And I think when we actually received the shareholder agreement in draft form, it was really quite clear what the responsibilities of the board were, and basically most of the authority still laid with regional council. So I think it was at this point that the citizen members were basically questioning, well, what authority do we have if we as board members are putting in all of our time and our energy into ensuring that Peel Living is a strong and vibrant and viable organization, but at the end of the day, we really don't have the authority to bring about change. Why are we here? And I think all of the members of the board recognized that when anyone puts their time into something, they have to believe that there's value in their time being put in that. So it was at that point we really had agreed that we needed to look at the governance structure. We had hired a consultant to sit down with us and not only look at the governance structure, but the transitioning of Peel Living as a board to meet some of the strategic directions that council had made prior to Peel Living moving away from being solely run as by the region of Peel to a separate corporation. So we were going through we were questioning a lot of the decisions that had been made. We were in a period of transition. We had hired expertise to assist us as we moved through the process. And quite frankly, our citizen members were really valuable, highly skilled individuals who had a lot to contribute to Peel Living. So it was, I think the board as a whole, the remaining members of the board, were really disappointed that we were not able to continue to move forward and make the changes that probably at the end of the day will really secure the future of Peel Living. So having said that, I think the easy answer is yes, the board understood how the citizen members were feeling. Yes, we were trying to work through the issues, but change doesn't always come easy. And unfortunately, we were addressing things before the summer started, and so there was a lull in the summer months where we were unable to get all of the members of the board together, and that was both citizen and council members. And we had a program set up. September the 28th, we had a workshop, and October the 4th, we had a workshop. Unfortunately, the resignation of our citizen members kind of put us to a stop where we had to step back and relook at how we would move forward as a board. And we did have, because we had a governance expert on hand, who had met with the citizen members and understood what their issues were. The recommendation from the individual was that we really should not look to engage citizens in the immediate future until we resolve some of the issues that were of a concern to them. And so the remaining board members concurred with that. But all of the groundwork has been done. We want to move forward, and we hope to be able to come back to council with some concrete recommendations as soon as possible in relation to governance and transitioning and the bigger picture for Peel Living. So I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you. Councillor Sprovieri?
Yeah, just thank you for that, Councillor Miles. And I think what's important for council is to understand, and perhaps staff can report back when this issue comes before us, is to understand why we made the change to go from a council run identity to and give it off to another independent board. Whether there was some faults with that system that we had previously, and whether there were problems, and in order to resolve those problems, staff recommended we should have this independent board that to deal with Peel Living, and or whether it was running great previously, but now trying to go with this new system is actually causing problems and possibly costing money to bring in these engaging consultants to find solutions to these problems that they're experiencing. So I think it's important that we understand whether it's better to go back to the previous model, or whether it's had its own problems, or whether we should be trying to resolve the problems this board has and move forward with a solution.
David?
Mr. Chairman, I can answer that now. The previous council, which was the board, met in a series of workshops and was quite emphatic in its decision to move forward with a new board structure that included citizen members. And so we did that. What we found out in the process, as Councillor Miles has said, is that there's a lot of churn that happens in this type of transition. And one of the things we didn't anticipate was the difficulty in establishing that shareholder direction and clearly articulating the amount of authority given to the board. I have heard nothing from the board, the remaining councillors on the board, that would indicate that they have any interest in going back to the old model. And I think, as Councillor Miles has just said, the governance expert that we have brought in to assist the board, the new board, in working through these transitional issues, has recommended that we work through the transitional issues quite quickly, come back to the board, to the council as the shareholder with recommendations on those transitional issues, and then re-engage the public to sit on the board.
Well, thank you for that, David. I don't know if it was as you said, that the previous council was really the driving force, but I don't recall whether it was just some members of council that drove it, or because the recommendation came, and myself, I remember I was okay with going to the new model, but I didn't really. I wasn't at the frame of mind that there was problems with the previous model, and that I wanted to change. That was me personally, but I don't know how many people of the former council actually had a problem with the former model, whether it was just a few people or whether it was a lot of people. I don't recall that, how it was driven, and maybe that's important to understand too. What was the problem with the former model that the council of the day wanted to wash their hands from?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, when we report back to the shareholder, council as the shareholder, with proposals for the changes that I've talked about, we can certainly include a synopsis of the recommendations coming out of the previous council.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miles?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just on that point to the councillor, there was a 2-year process that many of the members of Regional Council participated in order to work through the changes that were eventually recommended to Council. It wasn't a few. There was quite a large number of us that actually sat on that committee, did the work, and then came back with the recommendations. And what precipitated that was the fact that the Region of Peel had been given the responsibility as service manager for housing across the Region of Peel. So as service manager and also being the sole board of directors for Peel Living, there was some blur between Peel Living as a separate board and corporation and us, all members of council, who are responsible as service manager for housing. So I think that's really what started the process. But through the process, the members of council that were a part of the process really recognized that there was a lot of intellect in the community that we felt could really assist us as we moved Peel Living, which is a multi-million-dollar corporation, in the right direction in order to make it more self-sufficient and probably more financially sustainable for the future. So that's really where the recommendations came from council. It was a lengthy process and I believe a very well thought out process. Mr. Chairman, I will be happy to move receipt of the report and also the recommendations in 5.2-1 to ratify and confirm the actions of the corporation.
Thank you very much. Mayor Crombie.
Thank you, Gail, for your remarks, because I too participated in the process in those meetings that we had, those strategy meetings. And I think the underlying goal, Councillor Spovieri, was that we move towards an independent board. And this was step one, that we take off some of the non-independents and have a better balance, but eventually hoping that we could achieve an independent board. And so now you're suggesting we move back to the way things used to be. I think this was a big improvement on governance, and I wouldn't want us to be moving backwards at all. So, you know, we've had a little glitch, but I think we soldier on.
Thank you. A motion of receipt of the update from the commissioner has been moved by Councillor Miles and seconded by Councillor Mahoney. All in favor? Carried. I have a motion by Councillor Miles, seconded by Councillor McFadden, that all bylaws and resolutions of the corporation and all acts of the corporation undertaken in good faith from June 23rd, 2016 to the present be ratified and confirmed. All in favor of that? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Meeting's adjourned. I know we have the paramedics who've been patiently waiting here, but I'm just going to ask for like a 2 or 3 minute stretch health break before we move into council. Thanks. I'll call to order the Region Appeal Council meeting for Thursday, October the 13th, 2016. Roll call. All are present except Councillor Fonseca on a personal matter, Mayor Jeffrey on a personal matter, and Mayor Thompson on a personal matter. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, then approval of the minutes of the September 22nd, 2016 Regional Council meeting. Moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor McFadden. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Approval of the agenda, moved by Councillor Yanika, seconded by Councillor Downey. All in favor? Carried. Before we move into delegations, I just wanted to thank all of members of council and certainly the regional staff here for their support during my absence. Particularly wanted to thank as well Councillor Paleschi for briefly supporting me in fulfilling my duties for the last week of August. And a special thank you goes out to Councillor Parrish, who was there to support myself in our office in my absence during the month of September, and I understand did an excellent job in chairing 2 council meetings and a public meeting. So thanks very much, Councillor Parrish. And she said she's never going to do it again, and that's been noted. I'd like to call forward Peter Dundas, Chief and Director of the Paramedic Services. If you'd please come forward, Peter. Thank you.
Any short people. Morning, Chair Dale and members of Regional Council. I'm very proud to be here once again to recognize the achievements of some of our distinguished Peel Regional paramedics. As part of the Canadian Honours Program, the Governor-General makes available exemplary service medals for paramedic professionals. The award is available to eligible members of paramedic services who have served for at least 20 years in a meritorious manner. It recognizes those professionals who have performed their duties in an exemplary manner, characterized by the highest standards of good conduct, commitment, and efficiency. To qualify, at least 10 of these years must have been street-level duty, involving potential risk to the individual. On September 29th in Blue Mountain, 3 Peel paramedics were awarded this medal by Lieutenant General Richard Romer, acting on behalf of Governor General David Johnston. Those recipients were David Bink, Darren Clark, and Patrick Forgy. The paramedic profession has changed profoundly since they began their careers in the early 90s. Throughout the past few decades, they have contributed to the development of our local programs, helped the profession as a whole to grow as well as develop. It gives me great pride in knowing that these are the kinds of paramedics that serve the residents of the Region of Peel. They represent the very best of our service and also represent the best of paramedics across this great country. Darren, David, and Patrick, thank you for your long and outstanding service to the residents of Peel. We're very proud of you. Could you please stand and be recognized by council? No questions?
Certainly, I want to thank on behalf of council all of the recipients. It's nice to finally be recognized for the work that you do on a day-to-day basis, particularly the service that you provide to our residents of Peel. It's really nice that it has not gone unnoticed. And I know all of us here on council are so grateful for your service as well, and very proud of the service that you do provide to the residents of Peel. Mayor Crombie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're also very proud of you, everyone at Peel Regional Council, everyone in Mississauga. We want to thank you for your exemplary service. But, Chief, I think you overlooked somebody. We want to also congratulate you for the award that you have received, and you make us very proud as well. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you for that presentation. I was going to point out, as Mayor Crombie did, that you overlooked somebody in the report. Maybe you thought you were testing to see if we read the reports, weren't you?
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't.
But our chief,
Something
Peter...
was slipped in,
Yeah, right.
unbeknownst to me.
Peter Dundas was awarded the R.J. Armstrong Leadership Award, and we have exemplary paramedics because we have exemplary leadership. And Peter, you have provided that leadership for a good number of years for the paramedics in the region of Peel. You put us on the map, and I'm sure that we're the envy of many paramedic services and regions across the GTA, in fact, probably the province. We are a better region and a better service for the residents and our taxpayers in the region because of your leadership for that department. And I think you are very much deserving of the award that was given to you. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Groves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And on behalf of our residents in Caledon, Peter, I'd like to thank you and your staff for all the great work and great service you provide to our community. And Councillor Moore said it very well. It is because of your leadership. A great leader always empowers his staff to do great work and all the things they're capable of doing. And certainly in my time when I was former chair of the Health Committee, I've had have had an opportunity to work very closely with you and certainly understand your leadership and the skills and qualities that you bring to paramedic services here in Peel. So thank you.
Jason.
Councillor Miles.
Yes, I'm just wondering if we could have you and the paramedics come down to the center podium so we can all take pictures and send them out on social media, because we're very proud of you.
Okay. Before we do that, I know Commissioner Smith had a few words she'd like to say.
Thank you, Chair Dale, through you. I was going to, before Peter did escape the room, I wanted to raise the attention to his ward, so thank you for council for doing that. I did edit the report he submitted in and added the extra word in because he is modest, and it was my pleasure to be there. I can honestly say I've never seen Peter gobsmacked, and I saw him at the event. He truly has made the career of paramedicine his lifelong passion. He's contributed to the profession through the research we've done to advance the whole pre-hospital medical care, developing protocols for emerging health issues like Ebola just in the last few months, and of course reforms to service delivery like our Make Ready process, like dispatch reform, which we're still working on, and hospital offload delay. And he's currently the Vice President for the Ontario Paramedic Chiefs Association, so he's going to continue to share his leadership and passion to the profession of paramedicine in Ontario. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I say a few words, Chair?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, you're most welcome to.
I truly appreciate the accolades, but as a leader, you tend to get all the accolades because you're front and center. But accolades only come through the true work of the men and women of this great service. The frontline staff, the administration staff, our operational management group. This is just a depiction, the 4 gentlemen behind us, of the great work that we do. And I've worked for quite a few paramedic services and advised for them, and nothing makes me prouder to be back in Peel Region, running, being the leader of this service. And people always ask me, when are you ready to retire? And I said, not yet, because I'm having too much fun. I love it here. I love the men and women that I have the pleasure of working with. And this is my retirement point, this region. Not today, don't worry. But this is where I want to end my career. This is sort of the jewel in the crown of my career path. And I truly can't get there without the extreme help of council, the senior leadership, and my leadership teams, and all the regional staff that support our programs. So accolades may come my way, but we need to make sure that the accolades go to everybody else that makes it such a great program. I had a mentor earlier in my career when I first went into management, and he said, Peter, there's a difference between a boss and a leader. A boss says go, and a leader says let's go. And I hope I exemplify that with my staff, It's all teamwork. Everybody's engaged. Everybody's involved because we want the best care out there to the residents of Peel. So thank you very, very much for your recognition. I'm very humble. I'd rather have them acknowledged than me, but thank you very much.
If you'd like a photo op, we can. Yeah, paramedics, please come forward. Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah. Before we move fully into the next section of the agenda, I wanted to take a moment to comment on the minutes from the Lobbyist Review and Integrity Commissioner Committee. I unfortunately wasn't at the meeting, but I understand that there was some discussion about what might be the optimal number for any gift registry disclosure. As a member of council will recall, Brampton, Caledon, and Mississauga each operate under their own rules with little commonality to be found amongst them. The recommendation from the committee is to set a $200 limit on gifts and hospitality received by the chair, but I would like an opportunity to add my own opinion on the matter for the benefit of council before a final decision is made. In my opinion, I feel that all gifts and hospitality received by my office be disclosed, and I would ask that council support this change. I can appreciate the various views and comments made by members of the committee who attempted to reach a compromise, understanding fully the differing rules in their home municipalities. However, in my view, the best way forward is to continue in the matter of which I've conducted myself during the 28 years as an elected official, which is to say by operating openly and transparently in a fiscally responsible manner that respects taxpayers' dollars. And I would ask that members of council support my suggestion, which I believe is a demonstrative of both good governance and sound leadership. Thank you. That moves us into the items related to enterprise programs and services, and I would call on Councillor Medeiros to chair this section, please.
Thank you, Chair Dale. So we go to items 6.1, for information, Region Appeal credit rating update. If there are any questions, comments, can I get a mover? Councillor Moore, seconder, Councillor Downey, all in favor? Carried. Item 6.2, Statement Development Charge Reserve Funds, for information as well. Are there any questions, comments? No. Can I get a mover? Councillor Spaveri, seconded by Councillor Gibson, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. 6.3, Coordinated Plans Review 2016, recommendations for provincial consideration. Any questions, comments? No. Can I get a mover? Oh, sorry, Councillor Tovey.
Yes, thank you very much. I guess just as staff, when we met with the minister, there was a question about the densities of 80 people per jobs, people and jobs per hectare, and whether or not that could be equalized over the over the region of Peel rather than just in the greenfields, and we got rather disconnected response from the minister's staff. One of the staff members said, "Oh yeah, you can do that," and another staff member said, "No, I don't think you can do that." And I believe they were going to get back to David on that, and I was wondering if we've had any response to that particular question, because that's a really critical difference.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Councillor Tovey. Yes, the province has been in regular meetings with us, and we're having discussions with them. They're open, listening to all of the information that's coming forth from ourselves, from the various bodies out there that are advocating for changes to what's being proposed, because some of what is being proposed does not work. The 80 people and jobs per hectare issue, as it currently stands, applies to only designated greenfield areas. Our designated greenfield areas, in the vast majority, are in Brampton. Future designated greenfield areas will have more in Caledon, but Mississauga barely has any. So it's the real issue is the application, Councillor Tovey, of the intensification requirement.
Exactly.
And that's the change, because previously in the growth plan, it was that the 40% of all development had to be in the form of intensification, and that number has now increased. So we're trying to work all of these things out with the province right now. So this report is very important, that they get the message that the growth plan as proposed does not work, and really local circumstances must be considered.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Tovey. Councillor Sato.
Thank you. How much coordination has gone into this report with the local municipalities? We are not going to be reviewing our recommendations until October 24th, and I don't know if Brampton has dealt with it yet or not. So how much consolidation has there been?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Councillor Sato, there has been coordination. We've had meetings with the area municipal staff. We're well aware of the comments that are, at least at the staff level, coming to us, and have reflected them appropriately in this report.
Okay. I attended on behalf of Mayor and Council the summit. David was there as well, and some of the issues that were raised at the summit, which also reflected what will be in the Mississauga report, I don't see in here. And I know we're looking at it from a different level regionally. However, and David, you can help me with, I think it was Halton. They presented a consolidated position where the three municipalities got together and presented the same report, and it included all of the issues that were of concern to the municipalities. For example, one of the issues in Mississauga that is of great concern in the recommended changes is how transit stations are being dealt with. And we'll be bringing some very strong recommendations, and that was the 160 people and jobs per hectare. The impact, again, not just of transitional, but how as Councillor Tovey said, how that 80 is going to be applied, because we can achieve 80 within Mississauga, but if it's regional, we could end up with the Ninth Line lands that you know very well being 150 or 180 in order to meet the 80, because that is not a plan today. So those are very real concerns. And the outcome of the summit was that they are going to be preparing a report, consolidated report, that is to be sent to all of the municipalities for endorsement before it goes to the province. So I think, and I know I met with our staff just the other day again, because they've been making some tweaks to their report after they saw what had been presented. And some of what we're recommending in Mississauga does not really meld with what some of the other municipalities are saying. And I think the main message was one size doesn't fit all. And I guess we haven't really said this in this report, so I guess my concern is that without the members of council, Mississauga members of council at least, having seen what the city staff are recommending and saying and advising us what the impacts could be, I almost think that doing this one first doesn't really make sense, approving this first. There may not be anything really different, but as a member of council and having sat through that meeting 2 weeks ago and heard all of the comments, and I took copious notes, and I've met with staff at the city twice since then. So I just want to be sure that what we're saying here at the region is the same as what we're saying at the municipalities. And so I know that the timing, the comments have to be in by the end of October, but I'm just wondering if we have to approve it today or if we can wait until we see our reports.
So if Councilor Medeiros, as chair, would allow, I'd like to respond to that. I believe that our response is complementary to the city's and the town's responses, and also complementary to what we heard. Both you, Councillor Sato, and Councillor Downey spoke at that summit and spoke about the concerns that you have, not only from the city level, but also regionally. They are related. But I believe if it's council's wish, we can hold this report until the 27th, which is our next council meeting. That'll give you an opportunity to review your report at the city level and still get it in by the 31st. I don't, from my understanding, from my sort of 30,000-foot view, I see the reports as being complementary and certainly not contradictory. And but we can hold off for 2 weeks if council wants us to, or we can push ahead with this one now and let the cities put their own in.
And David, I'm not saying that it's contrary to what might be approved. I guess my concern is just that the other members of council, I've seen a draft of the report because I sat down with staff after the session and haven't seen the entire draft, but some of the items in the report. And I know our report at the city goes further than what is here. We have some more explicit as it relates to the employment lands and some of the others. But Brampton and Caledon, I think, there are more parts of the growth plan that have greater impacts on Brampton and Caledon because they have more greenfields than we have. And so I don't know. I mean, if the members of the other municipalities are satisfied that, I don't know if you've seen your reports yet or not. And if you have, then that's fine. I guess it's just that Mississauga has not seen our report yet.
The issue with the greenfield densities that you've identified for the 9th line lands is exactly the same issues that affect Brampton and Caledon. That when you intensify only on the margins, you have to go to much higher than 80 to make the average 80, because the rest is already built, as you know.
Yeah.
And so that's consistent across the region, and that's why our recommendation is do not impose that until after 2031, because the 2031 planning's been done.
Yeah.
And really, what we are saying, although we may not have put it in so many words, this plan has to be implemented locally and has to recognize the differences across the province, and one size does not fit all. But we're really at your pleasure as to whether or not we submit it now or wait a couple of weeks so that you have the comfort of seeing them at your council.
Well, as I said, I don't think there's a lot that's different. We just have additional items that are not in here. And if the rest of council is satisfied with it, I'm okay with it. There's nothing outrageously contrary. There's nothing actually contrary at all to what we're saying. So if the rest of council is fine without seeing the Mississauga report, then that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sato. Councillor Ennis?
Thank you. I just want to follow up on Councillor Tovey's request. So I don't think that there was a clear answer. I think the specific confusion at the meeting with the minister was with regards to whether or not the numbers are going to be as a total per region or per individual municipality. And they were to get back to us to let us know if those targets, which way it was supposed to be. Because as it stands right now, it's always been as a region, but the way that the wording is worded, it could be interpreted as an individual municipality. So were they clear in a response to us as to how they were viewing that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, not yet. What we have right now is just what's being proposed, and that's the intensification rate increasing, and also that it be applied per municipality. It's actually for each municipality that has an urban growth center, so this applies to Brampton and Mississauga.
I would ask then maybe that we follow up with the minister's staff, just based on the conversations that we had during that AMO delegation, because I think that that's important for all of us to know. It's not going to change this report, and I do want to say that Caledon's position is very consistent with the messaging that's been brought forward here today, and I have no concerns of supporting this report today and moving it forward. I think the province needs to understand the concerns that we have, especially with the 80 people per hectare target that they've sent, and the flipping of the greenfield to the intensification is some serious concerns for us. So I'm more than happy to support it moving forward today, because I think that the province needs as much notice as possible. But I think for our benefit, it would be important to follow up with the ministerial staff following that AMO delegation.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. So I think that would be a direction. Is that correct? Okay. Councillor Groves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, too, don't have any concerns with moving this forward, because I think we're working on a very tight timeline, and I think the province needs to have that time to absorb our comments. And Arvind, through you, Mr. Chair, to staff, you've been meeting, your staff have been meeting with our staff and the other staff, I would think, from the other two municipalities. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, there have been a lot of meetings on this report and everything we're talking about, not just with area municipal staff, but regular meetings with the province also. So we're on their radar in terms of some of all of our concerns.
Okay, so you would hear the concerns coming out of Caledon, Brampton, and certainly, I think, Mississauga as well, correct?
Yes, and
it's
coordinating our
incorporated in
comments.
here.
Yes.
Right, and I think the CAO made a very good point. It's the messaging is one size doesn't fit all. And clearly, the other important messaging also, and I'd be curious how the province is going to respond to it, is what the CAO had said, is that the 2031 numbers move ahead, because I see that as part of the current growth plan and all the work that has been done to achieve what we needed to achieve in the current growth plan. So has there been any feedback on that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the feedback has been that they're open, they're listening. The position we've taken is that leave the 2031 numbers alone, because it's not just Peel, but all the greater Golden Horseshoe municipalities have had, most of them have had contentious OMB hearings that have settled these matters.
Right.
So to open them up now is not in the best interest of anyone, and our position is let's move forward, and for the planning beyond 2031 to 2041, start applying some of what the province is thinking for that time period, but also making sure even that works, and it doesn't always work the way it's being proposed.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, and I'm comfortable with moving this as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Groves. Councillor Tovey?
Yes, thank you very much. Just for comfort for my Mississauga colleagues through our Growth Management Committee, and Gail's here as well, we've had numerous meetings with all three area municipalities to make sure that we're all in sync with the growth management plans that we'll be bringing forward later. So I have every comfort level that we are completely in sync with the city of Mississauga. And I really think we should move forward with this. You never know what's going to happen in 2 weeks. what if we don't have quorum? So I'd rather move it forward at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tovey, and Council once again has benefited from your wisdom. So I thank you very much. So can I get a mover for 6.3 and correspondence 7.2 and 7.3 with it? Councillor Groves, seconded by Councillor McFadden. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Next, 6.5, report of the region appeal. Oh, no, my apologies. 6.4, the enactment of a lobby registry registration bylaw and implementation of the system. Any questions, comments? Councillor Raz.
Thank you very much, Councillor Medeiros. I believe as we've been having several meetings, and as chair of the committee, I think we've come to a good place that can be supported by the majority of municipalities and councillors. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to support the appointment of an integrity commissioner and a lobbyist registrar. And I think this is a step in the right direction in terms of, good governance and moving towards a gold standard. So I would move the report and when required.
Thank you, Councillor Raz. And as a member, I thank you for your leadership on this committee. Are there any questions, comments? No. So moved by Councillor Raz, seconded by Councillor Gibson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 6.5, report of the Region Appeal Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting. Any questions, comments? No. Moved by Councillor Carlson, seconded by Mayor Crombie. All in favor? Carried. Now we go to item 6.6, and I believe Councillor Raz. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Medeiros. Just to follow up on Chair Dale's comments that he is going to be moving, he's amenable to having any value declared. We would like to amend the minutes of the Lobbyist Registry and Integrity Commissioner Committee meeting at 7/2016. It's up on your screens. And the only thing that has changed is within the second paragraph. And further, that the Regional Council Code of Conduct be amended to require that the regional chair to disclose in writing all gifts, benefits, or hospitalities, blah, 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 having any value and include in such disclosure. So that's the only thing that's been revised, and the chair agrees to it.
Thank you, Councillor
Now,
Raz.
for those of you who don't know, that's for the chair only, and we're all governed by our own municipalities when it comes to declaring gifts.
Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Raz. Councillor Starr.
Just a point of clarification, so that then if we go to Starbucks or whatever and purchase coffee on behalf of the chair, you're going to have to declare that? Is that how ridiculous this will be?
Unless you want to word it nominal value, but, like instead of...
I would change it to something nominal, because I really fail to see where you're going to start listing coffees and...
Unless Frank buys all the coffee.
There's one person on the board. Thank you. There's one person on the board, Councillor Starr.
I just think that there should be something nominal. I thought 200 was fine, but I mean, I really think that up to $25 or $50 or whatever. I mean, you're gonna spend more time listing, even a lunch. So I'm going to suggest $50.
No, 200.
No, I'm keeping it at zero.
Excuse me?
Hey? We'll try it at this.
Can I get some, please? Councillor Starr right now is the only one on the board. So Councillor Starr, are you proposing an amendment to the mover of the motion?
Yeah, I'm proposing an amendment that the nominal value of $50, up to $50, not having to be declared.
Okay, so that's Councillor Raz. After, let me get to Councillor Spoveri and then Councillor Spoveri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and just a question to the chair. Would a coffee influence you in any way to support to support what we want?
Well, let's put it this way.
Then we have to list the coffee. If not, then I'm okay with $200.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Spoveri. Councillor Parrish.
Yeah, I was happy with 200, and a committee debated it at great length. And it's not just for Frank. There may be another regional chair in our future that'll think this is ridiculous, and we're going to have to go back and change it. 200 is a perfectly reasonable number. And Frank is the most tight-fisted guy. He was the lowest spender in Mississauga for his entire career. So he's not going to be frivolous. So I think we just leave the recommendation the way it is.
Thank you, Councillor Parrish. So we have a proposed amendment by Councillor Starr for $50 value. Councillor Raz, would you like to, as a mover of the motion?
Getting the sense that, sorry, Councillor Starr.
I'd be happy to withdraw. And leave it at $200.
So Councillor Raz, you'll leave as is.
Take a vote, and if this vote fails, then it goes back to the what's included in the report, which is 200. Just so we're clear.
That's
Is that
fine.
fine?
Or just withdraw.
Councillor Gibson?
Well, I'm hearing different things from different people.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, this isn't about Frank. This is about the chair. And I applaud Frank for asking for it to reduce down. I don't know why, for heaven's sake, we would go against what he wants. Let's just give him what he wants, and it's for future chairs that come along later on. So I agree with Councillor Starr. It's ridiculous to think that this is going for a coffee, you'd have to put that in. For me, I wouldn't even worry about that. But I think Frank's smart enough to know what he has to put in, what he doesn't have to put in. I would suggest we just do what the chair wants us to do. It's a logical thing for me to support.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. So we have no further comments. We have, I believe, for clarification, Councillor Moore has asked for clarification, Chair Dale. Essentially, what is reflected here is what you requested or what you commented on. So that is in fact what Councillor Dale, what Chair Dale has suggested. So we now have a motion on the board. Is this the normal vote, or are you asking for a recorded vote? Okay. So
The motion needs to be seconded, Councillor
motion
Nicholas?
moved by Councillor Raz, seconded by Councillor Innes. All in favor? Thank you. The motion is carried. And now we go on to communications, just item 7.1. Can I get a mover for the communicate? Councillor McFadden, seconded by Councillor Mahoney. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, and over to you, Chair Dale.
Oops, thank you. Moving right along, items related to Public Works. Councillor Starr, if you'll chair this section, please.
Okay, we have 8.1, which is the noise attenuation walls conversion program. Any questions or comments? Okay, I do have a question, and if the chair can be heard. The $55 million that's been set aside over a 30-year period, I know you're working all through this, but in 30 years, if we're replacing walls, that's worth like $600,000 or $700,000 by my figures. And if you have 33 kilometers of walls that you think you're going to be having to do something with, by the time you hit that impasse down the road, you're not going to be replacing at the same rate that you're replacing at 2017. And I just wonder if somehow the present value or the current versus present value of that amount of money down the road 30 years, if we're going to be revisiting this, or, I mean, it's just, I know it's a nominal amount, but the point is, if it sticks in the budget for that amount over the years, you're not going to have the same type of money.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chairman, to address your point, the two things we're going to be doing over time. One is the capital budget gets inflated for the actual material inflation, so that will get adjusted over time. And then as we do the condition assessments, we'll reevaluate what is it that's required. The $2 million over 30 years was really, council set a $2 million thresholds. When we bring back the main plan, if you decide you want us to go faster, slower, that'll get adjusted as well. So future capital budgets will self-correct it.
Okay, good. Okay, any other further questions or comments? Moved by Councillor Grove, seconded by Councillor Unica. All in favor? Carried. 8.2 was the Metrolinx plan update. Any questions, comments? Moved by Mayor Crombie, seconded by Councillor Mahoney. All in favor? Carried. The South Peel, I'm sorry, the Smart Commute Workplace Safety program. Questions, comments? Councillor McFadden, seconded by Councillor Medeiros. All in favor? The South Peel Water and Wastewater Agreement Advisory Group. Pay attention to this because you're going to have to be some volunteers here. Okay, all those that want to volunteer, stick up their hands quick. He fell for it. Anyway, I think what it is, Councillor Tovey, a report is coming forward, so you'll have plenty of chance to do that.
Okay, I'll move it.
Okay, any questions, comments? Councillor Palashi, seconded by Councillor Tovey. All in favor? Carried. Architectural and Engineering Services in Ward 2. Any questions? Moved by Councillor Rass, seconded by Councillor Kovac. All in favor? Carried. And the report from the clerk regarding the public meeting held on September 29th. Any questions?
Let's go back to the other one.
Oh, it didn't say that in the report.
8.4.
Yeah.
What did you? Okay. Okay, we'll do this one and we'll back up.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll finish off 8.6. We have to back up to something that we missed. 8.6 is the report for information on the meeting. Moved by Callan, moved by Councillor Shaughnessy, seconded by Councillor Downey. All in favor? I'm sorry? Oh, she always sneaks one on in. This is a zinger. Councillor Parrish.
My question's on 8.6 because under receipt of all the people who presented that day, there's one J that says on behalf of option 4 and 5, but the others don't tell you what they were speaking on. Should we be including which option they were speaking on, or is that going to come out in another report?
It will come out in the summary of the comments at the report in December.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'm sorry, we have to go back to 8.4, where that is an advisory group, and I think there are individuals mentioned, so the clerk tells me that we should name those now. And it looks like wards 1 and 2 for the city. Is that?
And 2 additional.
We need 2 more.
And 2 additional
Yeah, we need 2
regional councillors.
Correct.
And that's not the chair and vice chair. So all in total, there's 6. Okay. So we have Councillor Tovey, Councillor Rass, who are automatically on that, and then we need 2 additional volunteers to sit on the advisory group. Councillor, I'm sorry? She probably should have 1 of each, so Councillor Groves and somebody from Brampton. Anybody from Brampton?
Councillor Starr. Councillor Groves is already on as vice chair of the Public Works, so.
So yeah, you're on.
So I need 2 others.
2 others.
Joanna.
Councillor Shaughnessy. And can we have 1 from Brampton? We're going to sit here until we get a volunteer.
I will.
I knew you would. He fell for it.
The
Okay,
opportunity to work
Councillor
with Councillor
Medeiros
Tovey
and
is
Councillor
exciting.
Shaughnessy, plus the chair, vice chair, and wards 1 and 2 from Mississauga. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. And it's back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Items related to health. Councillor Moore, if you chair this section, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of committee, the first item on the agenda is 9.1. It's a recommendation report for approval. It is the Paramedic Services 2017 Response Time Framework. Moved by Councillor McFadden, seconded by Councillor Palashi. Seeing no questions on the board, all those in favor? That's carried. Item 9.2. We have a presentation. Welcome. Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So we're here to give a brief presentation on an immunization system update that relates to the report that was submitted. So through Madam Chair, we'll start that. Would you like us to introduce ourselves? I think
that would be nice.
I'd be happy
Just to remind us.
I'm Dr. Kate Bingham. I'm one of the Associate Medical Officers of Health, and I'm currently covering for Dr. Monica Howe, who will be back shortly from maternity leave. And I cover the communicable disease portfolio. And I'll let Isabel introduce herself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Isabel Mock, Director of Communicable Diseases and Chief Nursing Officer for Peel Public Health. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. So we just wanted to take this opportunity to share with you some points about immunization, and most notably that the immunization programs are one of the most cost-effective and cost-saving interventions that we can do. We know across many healthcare settings, across many diseases, and across many countries that vaccines prevent disease, save lives, and reduce healthcare costs. They're recognized as one of the most successful and cost-effective health investments that can be made. And even in cases where they aren't necessarily cost savings, they're certainly cost neutral, and it's always better to prevent disease than to treat it if you can. And there's over 50 years of success across multiple countries. One example of this that's a relatively recent one that we thought we'd share with you is Haemophilus influenza B, which despite the name is actually not related to influenza, the virus. So this is a bacteria. It can and has historically caused, can cause quite severe illness, particularly in children under 5 and even more so in children under 1. So while the illness can be mild, sort of a mild respiratory illness or an ear infection, it can also cause very severe invasive disease like meningitis, pneumonia, or sepsis. And it most frequently in severe cases caused meningitis. It was one of the leading causes of acquired hearing loss or deafness in children. And many of the children who did recover from meningitis actually did so with neurological deficits. So as you can see, the vaccine, this is a graph of cases spanning from 1979 to 2009, 2010. And it shows the case counts. So those are the bars on the graph. And you can see that where the vaccine was introduced in 1988, there was really a dramatic drop-off in the number of cases of this disease that we were seeing. To the point that during my training, I've actually seen very few cases of invasive Haemophilus influenza, so HIB, as we call it commonly. And that's a real shift from the types of illnesses that the people who trained me in my clinical training were seeing. So they frequently would comment that we were very unfamiliar with the sequelae of this disease because we just don't see it anymore. It's been a very successful program. So public health isn't the only one involved in immunization programs. We do deliver some vaccines, but we're really just a partner amongst many stakeholders in the system. We work with healthcare providers, so physicians and nurses and physician assistants, nurse practitioners, and our hospital and long-term care nursing home colleagues, parents and guardians, and we work very closely with the school boards because of the school-delivered vaccines. And I'm going to pass it over to Isabel.
Thank you. Thanks, Kate. So the Peel Public Health role is in regard to vaccine management, and we distribute vaccines over 900,000 a year now to our community, and then we also do vaccine fridge inspections greater than 900 a year now to all our providers who do give vaccines. The other major work that we do is in regard to student immunization program. We screen student records, and we actually have, again, it's actually a little more now than 250,000 a year, and that is in our 2 major boards as well as in our private schools and our French language schools. We immunize students, and last year we did 61,000 immunizations through our school program, and we enforce the requirement of the Immunization of School Pupils Act, which is an act in Ontario that we ensure that we have all the compliance that the ministry requires, and we have 45,000 incomplete records a year that we have to ensure that they are up to date. The future of immunization in Ontario has been issued as Immunization 2020 by the Ministry of Health most recently. This initiative is also building on Ontario's Patients First Action Plan for Healthcare that I know that you have heard about. And the 2020 refers to 20 actions that are to be taken in the next 5 years. The ones that we know about right now as the transition will occur is in regard to education requirements for parents requesting non-medical exemptions, physician reporting of immunization records to public health, and technological enhancements, examples, standardized online reporting, web access to immunization records for the public, and increased performance accountability for public health units. So our priorities and next steps are to continue to protect the health of Peel residents through high immunization coverage rates, perform ongoing screening and enforcement for newly required vaccines, provide the HPV vaccine to boys in grade 7, and prepare for implementation of Immunization 2020 actions. These initiatives, of course, have resource impacts for the program, which will be reflected in the 2017 budget request. So that ends our presentation, and we're happy to take questions.
Thank you. I have Councillor Groves on the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I know that you've been very diligent in with the schools, because I've received those notifications from my son. And when I didn't complete them, I got a second notification. So I know you're doing a great job there.
Sorry about that.
The one thing that I want to raise with you is with respect to the fridge inspections. And I know in some of the clinics and some doctors' offices, it's sometimes a staff. They are not really paying attention to when things expire, or they over order because they're not paying for these things. But eventually, I mean, we all pay for it somehow. We all pay for it. So how are you monitoring that? And are you giving them notice that you're coming, or do you just drop in there, or what do you do?
So it is drop in. So, Madam Chair, I can answer that question. So it is generally unannounced, and there's an annual fridge inspection. So every vaccine provider who we provide vaccine to, so that's everyone in Peel, we're actually the second largest vaccine distributor in Ontario after the Ontario government pharmacy. So we do an annual fridge inspection, and for those, it's a relatively small amount, but for the small number who are sort of repeat offenders, we could call them, or who have had difficulty in maintaining cold chain in the past, or have difficulties with over-ordering, we provide them with support, either to streamline their ordering based on the historical demand that we've seen in their history, and to provide education around improved practices, recommendations around equipment, and in severe cases, we actually do withhold vaccine until those are corrected.
Right. I'm glad to hear that you do provide education and support, because a lot of times, I mean, sometimes the temperatures in the refrigerator fluctuate a degree or two, but it certainly makes a difference in terms of the vaccine. So it's good that you're educating them, and the over ordering too. That's good. And the other one is on slide 7 with respect to the HPV vaccine. I know that when this first came about, the parents were very, they didn't receive it very well. They were very offended. They were very defensive. So how are you handling all of that? And have you seen things sort of calm down? And how are you educating parents on why you're giving these vaccines, as opposed to them thinking, well, my child's getting it because of they're sexually active and all of that stuff. So how are you dealing with that?
My experience has been that as people are more educated about the purpose of these vaccines, and that really they are ultimately to prevent cancer down the line, that some of the initial resistance and emotion around the vaccine administration has died down. It's not universally the case, and we continue to try to educate and reframe the intervention. And I think to some extent broadening it to both boys and girls really normalizes it as well. It's not just something for girls. and to just really to be open and available to answer people's questions and to work with school boards to frame it as well, because they do a lot of the communicating with parents along with our support.
Great, and I think that that's the key, and I do put out a newsletter, and I'm happy to put something in my newsletter to talk about that and to talk about the importance of having this vaccine.
Fantastic. We'd be happy to provide that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sprobieri.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Just want to get a clarification. I recall reading a few years back when this vaccine has become controversial in some quarters with some people, and actually we've been receiving some emails from some residents expressing concern about vaccination. But I did recall reading a while ago that some of the vaccines, mercury is used as a preservative to preserve rather than use freezers for to keep the vaccines from for preservation. Is that correct that there are some vaccines that mercury is used to keep them from going bad, I guess?
So there are a number of different additives that are used in certain vaccines primarily to prevent bacterial contamination, and usually in the case of multi-dose vials. So there are still some vaccines, particularly flu vaccine, where the most efficient and cost-effective way to distribute that vaccine is to have more than one dose in a container. And in that case, you need to be extra careful about avoiding bacterial contamination. So some mercury-related compounds have been used in the past. They're used in incredibly small doses, but there's a number of other additives that are included in that list, and despite extensive research and retroactively and prospectively, no ill effects have been found to be associated with preservatives that are added to vaccine, although in many cases manufacturers have discontinued the practice because of public concern, although there hasn't actually been evidence to support a risk of harm to the public.
Well, thank you for that, and you know, I appreciate that. Now, the other question related to that is these people who are concerned about vaccination overall, and you know, in the States, there's people who are refusing to be vaccinated, and they're actually. I was reading that there are people. The schools are not going to allow their kids to go to schools as a measure for their refusing. Do you know of any actual scientific research that has been done from some scientists that have expressed concern? Just like, you know, we're dealing with water fluoridation, so we have some experts saying it's okay, and we have some experts saying it's not okay. We had one this morning here, Dr. Sushila from India, saying it's not okay, yet we've heard from others saying it's okay, some other researchers like Health Canada and so on. So are there any actual scientists that have done research that are expressing concern about vaccination in general?
So when you look at the burden, the overall picture of all of the evidence, all of the research that's been done on vaccination across multiple settings, multiple countries, multiple different types of vaccines, consistently the research would support the fact that immunization is one of the most effective public health and healthcare interventions we have. It has undoubtedly saved millions and millions of lives. We do know that there are, like any healthcare intervention, there are known risks to providing immunization, and for that reason, it's actually one of the most highly regulated areas of healthcare and health product approval that exists, because we're giving an intervention, a vaccine, to otherwise perfectly healthy people. And so the standards for the safety and efficacy of that intervention are actually quite high compared to many other things we do in medicine, including many of the things I'm sure I do in my clinical practice. So it is quite tightly regulated. There are certainly risks. There are adverse events that occur in relation to immunization, but it is incredibly rare across the board for those to be serious, but they're real. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that they can occur and respond to them appropriately. And we have monitoring systems to do that in Canada. So there's robust surveillance. There's both post-marketing surveillance of vaccines once they're distributed across large numbers of people. And there's a system for reporting adverse events that's continually reassessed to look for patterns where we may need to look more closely. So I feel very confident in telling you that this is a very safe and effective intervention, and it's certainly one that I would strongly recommend. For those people who are hesitant to receive vaccines or who have questions, we do work with them individually to try to answer their questions and provide them with resources to help them feel more comfortable about making a decision. And we work with our healthcare providers too, because they're the ones who are often having these conversations, and to provide them with resources so that they feel confident answering people's questions and know where to direct them for more information.
Well, thinking through the chair, I appreciate that information. Now, I'm familiar with actually my mother, an older, she's 95, and she's getting some medications at her age, and some medications, she reacts to them, and the doctor says, okay, stop, don't take it anymore because of the reaction. So that's a way to resolve that problem. But with children who get immunized, who react to the vaccine, what's the remedy for that if a child reacts to a vaccine?
So through the chair. It's very rare. So the good news is that the vast majority of people have no reaction to receiving an immunization. For the few who do have a serious side effect, so something more than having a sore arm, maybe getting a low-grade fever but being otherwise quite well and recovering quickly, in the rare case where there's a severe reaction, it's usually reported to us. There's actually a formal assessment process, and it really depends on the type of reaction that the individual had and the vaccine itself. But an individual risk assessment is made, and then you can determine whether you would recommend re-immunizing, what the go-forward plan would be for that particular patient with respect to immunization. And it's highly individual. It really depends on the circumstances.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sparvieri, would you like to move the report? It's an information report. Seconded by Councillor Groves. All those in favor? That's carried. The next report, 9.3, I don't believe we approved that when we had the presentations this morning. So if someone would like to move the report, Councillor Gibson, seconded by Mayor Crombie. All those in favor? That's carried. There are two items of communication. One is a letter from Frank Dale to the Minister of Health, and the other is a good news letter from Dr. Hoskins, the Minister of Health, with regard to some funding for the region. The first item is for receipt. The second is for referral. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Tovey, seconded by Councillor Medeiros. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Items related to human services. Councillor Tovey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We have one item today, item 11.1, Survivors of Domestic Violence Portable Housing Benefit Pilot. The report is here for information. No one on the board. Moved by Councillor Starr, seconded by Councillor Palleschi. All those in favor? Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
We have no other business. Notices of motion. Bylaws. Bylaw moved by Councillor Raz, seconded by Councillor Innes, that the bylaw listed on the Regional Council agenda, being bylaw 47-2016, be given the required number of readings, taken as read, signed by the regional chair and the regional clerk, and the corporate seal be affixed thereto. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. In camera, the September 22nd Regional Council closed session report. Are there any questions, or do we need to move in camera on that? No, then move by. Yeah, but I'll do this out of camera to get it done. Moved by Councillor Paris, seconded by Councillor Sato. All in favor then? Opposed to any? Carried. And then I would like ask somebody to move into camera on a personal matter, which won't take too long, but I do want to move into camera on it. Councillor Sato.
Sorry, I just noticed that my name is not listed on members present, and I was in the meeting.
Okay, we'll correct that.
Correct that, thank you.
Right. So I would move into camera, moved by Councillor Palleschi, seconded by Councillor Mahoney. All in favor? Carried. And I ask that the chambers be cleared.